Hi everyone and welcome to this video. In this video, we are talking about what is procrastination? What are we trying to actually overcome? Now let's dive straight in. Here's a definition that I chose given by Mind Tools that I think it encompasses all of the key aspects of procrastination. Procrastination is the habit of delaying an important task, usually by focusing on less urgent, more enjoyable, and easier activities instead. This is pretty much what procrastination is. And as you can see here, I've made both some of the words that I personally think um, make procrastination so hard to overcome. And we are actually going to be tackling each one of those things so we can get free from the shackles of procrastination. Now, procrastination is a habit, right? Procrastination is a habit. It is something that we do over and over and over again, and then we get really good at it. Later on, you will also see why procrastination is also addictive. And it has a lot to do with this definition, okay? So first of all, procrastination is a habit of delaying something that is important, usually by focusing on something that is less urgent and more enjoyable. As you will see in a little bit, and also in the next module, we do that because we are wired to avoid pain and to seek pleasure, as some of you might already know. So this is the definition. Now, I first want to tell you that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you for procrastinating. I know that you might be feeling as if something is profoundly wrong with you for procrastinating, even though you have such big dreams and ambitions and goals, and you know you have so much potential and you want to achieve so much in your life, and you are conscious and aware that you are procrastinating. Yet it seems as if you can't do anything about it. Now, I know that you are probably also judging yourself harshly. I know I did. Each time I just waste yet another day in which I don't make progress with my business, I felt like a total loser. And I was judging myself so harshly. And I really, really thought that there was something fundamentally wrong with me. Now, if you're feeling this way, I want to tell you that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. And in fact, you are functioning perfectly normal and healthy. You're functioning exactly as you are supposed to function. Why? What is the dark force making you procrastinate against your own will? Here's the thing. You always choose not to do something. Whether that's a conscious or unconscious choice, it's a choice. And procrastination is not something that happens to you by some outside force. It is a choice. Now let's explore where that choice comes from. You might be asking yourself, how the heck am I even choosing that? I want to procrastinate. I want to get going. I want to achieve my dreams. How am I choosing that? Well, here's how. You are not wired to thrive. You are wired to survive. Your brain is always going to choose the less urgent, more enjoyable things to do because anything that is not that can be perceived as potential threats. Now, you will see how that works shortly. So you are not wired to thrive, you're wired to survive. So when you procrastinate, you are actually functioning perfectly normal, exactly as you are supposed to function. So here's a little image of your brain. Here in the front of your brain is what is called the prefrontal cortex, and here is the limbic system. The prefrontal cortex is actually your thinking brain. It is the brain that is responsible for your logical thinking, your reasoning, your rationalizing. It is the part of your brain that can also think about you thinking. Okay, so this is the more evolved conscious part of you. The limbic system is what we can call your primitive brain. And it is responsible for your fight or flight system, for the impulse reactions, for your long-term memory, emotions, and things like that. Now, here's a little overview of the difference between your primitive and your thinking brain. Now, bear with me just for a little bit because that's really going to help you understand your behavior, and it can really help you also um, develop this awareness to catch yourself each time your primitive brain actually takes control. Okay, so it's a very short little explanation. Now, your primitive brain is well developed from birth. You are born with already a well developed primitive brain. This is where all of your subconscious autopilot activities and basic functionings are located. So this is your breathing, blinking, pumping blood, and it is all of those things that keep you alive without you having to think consciously about them. Right now, as you are watching this video, you are not consciously thinking about creating red blood cells or breathing, because if you had to actually consciously choose to operate your whole system, you would probably not be able to, because that's just way too much for your conscious mind to operate and to think of. So your primitive brain is responsible for your fight or flight system. The amygdala activates this fight or flight system response without any conscious initiative from you the moment it detects it. So what does that mean? If you see a threat right now, a snake in your feet or something, your fight or flight is going to get immediately activated for you to either fight or flight, to either run or fight. So you don't have to consciously think about that. So when you feel like your whole body is telling you to flee from unpleasant situation, this is your limbic system talking. And this is exactly what procrastination is, right? Like your whole body, your system is telling you to flee from unpleasant situation. Now, this unpleasant situation can be as simple as washing the dishes. It perceives it as unpleasant, so it tells you to freaking get out of there. It is very funny, but we do that on an everyday basis, and we are actually acting much more like animals rather than human beings. So the whole point of this course is to teach you how to be a conscious human being and learn how to override your primitive brain response with your conscious mind. So your thinking brain actually has evolved at a much later stage in the evolution of humanity. It also develops fully only around the age of 25. So your thinking brain, as I already said, is responsible for your ability to plan, to focus your attention, to predict the consequences of one's actions, anticipating events in the environment, impulse control, managing emotional reactions. Now, here is also the reason why so many times we are consciously aware of, let's say, the fact that we are procrastinating, and we are consciously aware of the consequences of us not taking action towards our goals. We know it's going to be painful in the future. We know we're going to regret it. But what do? We still procrastinate. Why? Because it is your primitive brain that is calling the shots and is keeping you stuck in inaction because it thinks it is keeping you safe. So the thinking brain is what makes us human. We are the only species on the planet that has the ability to think about our own thinking, rationalize, plan, and analyze. Now, what happens when you are faced with a challenging task, something that you must do for your business? Let's say, go ahead, put yourself out there on social media, find clients. I don't know, even if you have a goal to lose weight, then you procrastinate, you don't go to the gym, things like that. Well, there are big six emotions that can hijack your amygdala. Now, amygdala is the little part of your limbic system, your primitive brain, that actually detects threat, and it's responsible for your fight or flight, and it's responsible for keeping you safe. So its only goal, listen carefully, its only goal is to keep you alive. It has no other goal. It doesn't want you to be rich. It doesn't want you to be successful. It doesn't want you to travel around the world. It wants you to be safe. Now, what happens when we experience one of those emotions? Let's say anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, shame. Well, what happens is that your amygdala doesn't rationalize why are you feeling any of those. It just sees the thing for what it is. Oh, there is fear. I must shut down all of the rational thinking and think about my escape or my survival, right? So let's say you want to put yourself out there on social media, and then you feel the sense of fear, and then your amygdala gets hijacked, and all of a sudden your conscious or your prefrontal cortex is no longer in charge. You are now being driven by your primitive brain. It doesn't rationalize, oh, I fear the fact that I might say something stupid and people will judge me, and that's actually absolutely not threatening for my life. I will not die if somebody writes a hateful comment down below, or if I make a mistake and somebody laughs at me. It's absolutely no threat to my survival. But the amygdala doesn't know that. The amygdala only sees fear, it gets hijacked. It is the same with all of those big six emotions. Now, at the most basic level, the function of your primitive brain is to keep you alive, as we already established that. Both humans and animals have brains that focus on three simple motivations to increase the odds of survival. Number one, avoiding pain. Number two, seeking pleasure. And number three is conserving energy and being efficient. This is what forms your brain's motivational triad. So in today's world, anything that could potentially produce a negative emotion, be it fear or boredom or anxiety or overwhelm, anything could hijack your amygdala and release the stress hormone called cortisol, and that makes us wanting to avoid doing certain things or even have new experiences in life, or the so-called taking risk, because familiarity back in the days meant safety. Okay, so anything, let's say you've never had a business before, you don't know if you're any good at it, and then you fear that you might screw things up. I don't know, it's unfamiliar territory for you, you've never done it before. Well, unfamiliarity back in the days, anything that was unknown, that produced any sort of negative emotion, could be actually life or death situation. Because if you back in the days, if you go to a new forest and it's dark and you don't see and you don't know what's out there because you've never been there, you've never been in that forest, then you will most probably then when your amygdala gets triggered and then you experience fear, that fear can be a lifesaver for you, because it can tell you get the hell out of there, because you don't know what's beyond the bushes. Could be a tiger, a bear, or something. So you must get out of there and maybe explore little by little during the daylight or something like that. That's why back in the days there are tribes that stuck together, had a familiar ground. They knew the ground, they explored, they knew exactly which places to go to because they've already explored it. And when there is fear, there is usually a reason why. And there is usually a reason why they should either fight or flight. But nowadays, anything, literally anything could potentially produce that kind of emotion. Social media, I don't know, dating a new person, starting a new business, like the little things, anything can produce a negative emotion. But the primitive brain doesn't make a difference. It doesn't differentiate between a hypothetical threat and a real threat. So this is how, do you see it, that this is how we so subtly avoid doing the things that we need to do to get further in life and business. We so subtly avoid them without even realizing that we are doing that. Because it's also very unconscious, right? Like the amygdala gets hijacked, and then your prefrontal cortex starts rational. Maybe it gets shut down, but if it doesn't, it starts rationalizing why this is now not a good time, why this is now not the best business. I don't know, whatever. You know the drill. So our subconscious minds take the decision to avoid doing certain things so quickly. It's still a decision, okay? But it's so quickly that if it's left unnoticed, we feel as if we are out of control. And we just waste so much time and potential we just waste so much time and potential away. So first step to overcoming procrastination is actually shining conscious light on what the hell is our subconscious mind doing, like we just did. So the other part of the motivational triad, the second part, is pleasure. Seeking pleasure for our brain would often mean instant gratification. That's because, as we already discovered, it is only our subconscious mind or the prefrontal cortex that can think rationally, plan in the future, etc. So our primitive brain that calls the shots more often when it comes to procrastination, it cannot uh, uh, it cannot immediately plan pleasure in the future. Okay, so what I meant by that is that it cannot plan pleasure in the future. The only thing it sees is the now, okay? The instinctive response for the primitive brain, it would be to get the pleasure now and avoid the pain now, okay? If there is any painful thing that you must do now, we must avoid it now, and we don't care about the pleasure in the future. This is your primitive brain. It only sees the now. There is no future or past or anything like that. So so only our conscious mind can think rationally about the pain and the pleasure. So now, of course, if we only like live like animals and just allow our primitive brain to call the shots, we're gonna be just doing things that are pleasant now and painless now, right? So it's gonna be I don't know, it's gonna be very fun, but also it's not gonna get us where we want to be. So we do care, we want something more for our lives, and we are meant to evolve higher. That's why we have our awareness. That's why we have consciousness. That's at least my belief. And then the third part of the motivational triad is to conserve energy. Now, conserving energy was extremely important back in the days. We needed our energy to be able to hunt, to be able to fight if needed. And if something that wasn't important required energy, we just wouldn't do it because we know that conserving energy is extremely important for the survival. Now, if something requires too much energy for the brain, it is perceived as inefficient, okay? And usually those are tasks that involve, let's say, thinking, creativity, planning, writing, brainstorming, actually doing the thing that you have to do. So our brain likes to avoid these things because sometimes when you say, for example, oh, I want to create my course, and then you say, oh, I want to add this and that and that, and I want to have 500,000, I want to have so many modules, and I want to teach so many things, and all of a sudden your brain gets overwhelmed just by the anticipation, the thought about how much it has to do, right? Like, oh, I want to I want to write a book, and then you get overwhelmed, and then you don't, and then you get shut down because your brain is like, fuck that. Like, I need to conserve my energy. This is not important. That's why your why and your vision needs to have some emotional charge, some emotional attachment, so it can be perceived as important by your brain. Okay, that's very important. And also you will see in the video about the model how you can rewrite those thoughts, such as like, oh, I have so much to do, to exactly how much you need to do. And in that way, how you can override your primitive brain's response. So in a nutshell, procrastination is simply our primitive brain choosing the best thing to do to avoid feeling a negative emotion and instead enjoy the instant reward of dopamine release and a sense of relief. And with that being said, here's my definition of procrastination. Procrastination is the avoidance of a negative emotion. That's what it is. The only thing we do when we procrastinate is avoid feeling some sort of discomfort. Your brain is not wired to make you happy. It is wired to keep you alive. You will never feel like doing the boring things. You will never feel like doing the scary things. It is counterintuitive to how you are programmed. Feeling like doing something means that there is an expectation of enjoyable or pleasant emotion, right? Some sort of excitement, satisfaction, joy. You don't have to feel like you don't have to motivate yourself to eat. You know that like you just go and eat when you're hungry because there is going to be some sort of pleasant, enjoyable outcome of that, which is feeling full, feeling satisfied once you eat. Like you don't need to feel like it or push yourself to feel like eating. You just eat when you're hungry. Now, if you want to achieve your goals, you must learn how to use your more evolved and conscious brain to take the right decisions that will produce better results in the long term. Being conscious is the way out of the loop. When it comes to living a deliberate life, we must put effort into using our consciousness to override the primitive system we operate from. We don't want to erase it. We just don't want it to be in charge, okay? Your primitive brain is still useful. It's still keeping you alive. It's still having you eat food when you're hungry and drink water when you're thirsty and keep you safe if there is threats, an actual threat. But that's about it. All the rest, everything you want to achieve in life, all that you want to be, all the potential that you want to tap into is on the other side of consciousness. Know that all change requires a rewiring of our current brain. We have to create a new normal. We need to constantly and consistently practice our new thinking, feeling, and actions in order to replace old neural pathways with new ones. Eventually, this will become effortless, and your old patterns will seem awkward. But of course, it takes practice, and I'm here to help you do that. This is why you are part of this community. This is why you are here, because every time you feel exhausted, you feel hopeless, you feel doubtful, you feel like you don't have the motivation to keep rewiring, to push yourself, and to really thrive. We are here to support you. And we are here to lend our belief in you until you have the belief in yourself, okay? Because this is the only place you need to be at to thrive to your max, okay? Accountability calls, Q&A calls, everything you need, personal coaching, all of that is available to you. So use it. Use it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.